It was supposed to be a quiet night, a simple get-together between two people hoping for a connection. But before the sun came up, one of them would vanish, and the other would find themselves at the center of a mystery that would grip an entire city. What really happened that night between Vinicius Moutinho and the woman who promised him an unforgettable evening? Was it a story of love, revenge, or something far, far darker? Vinicius Moutinho was a 27-year-old Brazilian entrepreneur, known for his charisma, his popular social media, and a growing list of admirers. To the outside world, his life looked perfect. But that all changed one evening in early 2023, when he met a woman who would alter his destiny forever. Her name was Larissa, someone he'd connected with online just a few weeks earlier. Their conversations were flirty, spontaneous, and filled with promises of what could be. Friends later said that Vinicius seemed genuinely happy, but also a little obsessed. That fateful night, he invited her to his apartment in São Paulo for what was meant to be their first private evening together. Security footage shows her arriving around 9:30 p.m., smiling, holding a small bag, but what unfolded behind those closed doors remained shrouded in mystery. Hours later, neighbors reported hearing strange noises, a heated argument, a door slamming shut, and then an unsettling silence. By morning, Vinicius had disappeared. His car was still parked outside, and his phone was dead. When questioned, Larissa told police they had argued and that he had stormed out, but investigators soon uncovered inconsistencies in her story. There were deleted messages, a timeline that just didn't add up, and traces suggesting she hadn't told them the full truth. Days turned into weeks, and pieces of evidence began to surface: receipts from strange late-night purchases, new surveillance clips, and witness accounts that painted a chilling picture of manipulation and deceit. What looked like a romantic night out had spiraled into a psychological game with devastating consequences. To this day, the full story of what happened that night remains unclear. But one thing is certain: Vinicius's final hours revealed just how quickly trust can turn into terror, and how a single decision can change a life forever. Vinicius Moutinho was the kind of person who seemed to have it all figured out. At 27, he had built a reputation for himself in São Paulo's competitive tech and marketing circles. He was confident, ambitious, and incredibly charming in front of a camera. His online profile was a highlight reel of a life many could only dream of: rooftop dinners, exotic travel photos, and a tight-knit circle of friends who looked up to him. But behind the perfectly curated posts, Vinicius was searching for something more, something deeper: genuine connection, trust, and maybe even love in a world where appearances can be incredibly deceiving. And that's when Larissa entered the picture. She seemed different, witty, genuine, and disarmingly honest. She was the kind of person who could effortlessly break through his confident exterior. Their first conversations were light and fun, but they quickly grew more personal, more intense. She seemed to know exactly what to say, and when to say it, to keep him completely hooked. Friends started to notice a change in Vinicius. He was constantly on his phone, sending late-night messages. His moods would swing suddenly, and he gave off the sense that he was falling, and falling fast. Their entire relationship had been built almost exclusively online, a modern romance constructed from emojis and digital promises. Vinicius truly believed he had found someone who understood him on a level no one else had. But what he didn't realize was just how carefully this connection was being crafted. It wasn't just attraction. It was a game of control, cleverly wrapped in the illusion of charm. That blind trust, the unwavering belief that he truly knew her, would soon become the first and most critical piece in a puzzle that would end in fear and mystery. When Vinicius invited Larissa over for their first private evening, he was a mix of nerves and excitement. He spent the entire day preparing, cleaning his apartment, curating the perfect playlist, making sure everything looked just right. For him, this wasn't just another date. It felt like the beginning of something real, something meaningful. At around 9:30 p.m., security cameras captured Larissa entering the building lobby. She was smiling, carrying a small bag, looking like anyone else on a Friday night, about to enjoy a quiet evening. But even then, beneath that calm surface, something felt slightly off. Some of his friends later recalled Vinicius mentioning that Larissa could be unpredictable. She would shift from incredibly affectionate to distant and cold without any warning. He brushed it off, chalking it up to part of her mysterious charm. Inside the apartment, they laughed, shared drinks, and talked for hours. But as the night wore on, a subtle tension started to creep in. There were small disagreements, probing questions that felt more like interrogations, and emotional triggers that created an atmosphere far less romantic than it appeared. To the outside world, nothing was amiss. The building was quiet. The lights in Vinicius's apartment glowed softly against the night sky, and no one could have possibly imagined that this ordinary night would soon become the epicenter of a real-life mystery. It was the calm before the storm, a storm that would irrevocably change both their lives forever. Sometime after midnight, the fragile tranquility of the evening began to shatter. Neighbors in the building later reported hearing muffled voices coming from Vinicius's apartment. At first, the voices were calm, but they quickly became tense, argumentative. A few minutes later, there was the distinct sound of something heavy falling followed by a sudden, jarring silence. One resident remembered hearing a door slam shut with force. Another said they noticed movement in the hallway but couldn't make out who it was in the dim light. In that small, terrifying window of time, whatever happened inside that apartment changed the course of the night. When the noise stopped, no one knew what to make of it. In a bustling city like São Paulo, where people often keep to themselves, few dared to investigate or intervene. Hours passed, and the building fell quiet once more. But this wasn't a normal silence. It was the kind of heavy, deafening quiet that follows something unexplainable, something awful. The next morning, when friends tried to reach Vinicius and call after call went to voicemail, a deep sense of unease began to spread. That moment, those few minutes of strange sounds and sudden quiet became the dark heart of the mystery. Every theory, every speculation, would circle back to that specific hour when the mood shifted from laughter and romance to alarm and terror. Somewhere between the sound of a slammed door and the first light of dawn breaking over snow, Paulo Vinicius Moutinho had vanished. When the sun rose the next morning, everything in the world seemed eerily ordinary, except for one thing. Vinicius was gone. His car was still parked in its usual spot. His apartment was locked from the inside, and his phone had been turned off. When police brought Larissa in for questioning, she appeared calm, almost strangely detached. Her story was simple. They had argued, and Vinicius had stormed out into the night, angry. At first, her account sounded plausible, a typical lover's quarrel. But then, the inconsistencies began to pile up. Investigators quickly noticed that her timeline didn't match the building's security footage. The cameras had never recorded Vinicius leaving the building at any point after her arrival. Even stranger, several text messages exchanged between them that night had been deliberately deleted from his phone. As detectives pressed her for details, Larissa's demeanor began to shift. One moment she was tearful and distraught, the next, defensive and hostile. They sensed she was hiding something significant. As news of the handsome entrepreneur's disappearance spread, media attention exploded, and public speculation ran wild. Was this a case of a relationship dispute gone tragically wrong, or was it something premeditated, something far more sinister? Police began meticulously retracing every single step of that night, and with every new detail they uncovered, Larissa's version of events became less and less believable. The truth was slipping through the cracks, and with every passing day, the line between a grieving girlfriend and a prime suspect blurred even further. Over the following weeks, a disturbing mosaic of evidence began to form. These were fragments of the truth that, when pieced together, revealed a story far more twisted than anyone had initially imagined. Receipts for late-night purchases from nearby stores, new surveillance footage from different angles, and messages recovered from cloud backups painted Larissa not as a heartbroken victim, but as a masterful manipulator. It became clear she had woven a complex web of lies around Vinicius, expertly exploiting his emotions and creating a false sense of intimacy to gain his trust. The story captivated the entire nation, not just because it was a compelling mystery, but because of its chilling psychological depth. How could someone who seemed so ordinary, so normal, orchestrate such a calculated deception? Experts who followed the case suggested that Larissa's behavior reflected a classic pattern of emotional control, a toxic dynamic that begins with charm and affection but ultimately ends in chaos and destruction. This wasn't just a crime of passion. It was a horrifying demonstration of how easily trust can be turned into a weapon. In the end, the case of Vinicius Moutinho became less about a simple disappearance and more about the profound vulnerability of the human heart. It served as a stark and terrifying reminder that danger doesn't always come with clear warning signs. Sometimes, it walks right through your front door, smiling. And sometimes, it can turn what was meant to be a night of love into a living hell. Thank you for watching. If you found this story as compelling as we did, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more deep dives into cases that will make you question everything you think you know. Stay safe out there.